off top in both 2016 and 2020. Kate Rubins, an astronaut, voted from space. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. As you can see, I'm in the Big Apple. And as you can also see, I am joined by one of my favorite people, the renowned number one Jeff of this show, maybe in this country, the great Jeff Saturday. What's up, buddy? We had Jeff Darlington on, and we had to make sure that he knew. We told him, like, look, you're number two Jeff on this show, just to be clear.
Yeah, he's down on the list, dog. We put him down on the list. He's a Jeff, but he doesn't. It's kind of it's one of that, you know. Reporter.
Nothing wrong with being a top two Jeff, but he's clearly not a top one Jeff.
No, definitely not.
That's Charlie Kravitz, as you guys all know, the vanilla snack, looking shiny at home. Why are you so shiny, Charlie?
I don't know.
So shiny.
I didn't have Shannon to give me matte cream before going on camera.
You need some matte cream. You're scaring off the viewers with all that shine.
Right. A little melanin, dog. Put a little melanin in. You don't mix it. You gotta blend. You gotta blend, Charlie.
I wasn't gonna tell on you, Jeff. But now I have to explain to him that Jeff get a little artificial melanin when we go on TV in the morning. Like just a little. He get the makeup just a shade darker than his fall complexion. He gets his summer colors.
That's right.
It's true. It's like, hey, Jeff, I would say you ain't fooling nobody, but you are fooling everyone. Actually.
Wait. Are we not going to talk about the ultimate fool job that's going on right now, which is the incredible pencil work in the corners of Domonique Foxworth's hairline?
You see that?
He worked him in. He worked him in.
I got it. Oh, that play action is strong. I'm getting the linebackers and the safeties with that play action. They coming up. They in the box, and we go over top on that.
So you got 5 years younger since Sunday.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, nothing wrong with a little fib. If you got a little fib.
Don't be scared of it. Don't be scared of it. We got to make this thing look right.
Charlie ain't scared of it. Charlie be cheating too. That's all right. But we're not gonna tell the people about your maneuvers. That's all right. I won't tell the people about your maneuvers, Charlie. That's all right.
I don't know what my maneuvers are.
You got some maneuvers.
Okay. Should we talk football about the team that's actually maybe smoke and mirrors with their offense right now?
Oh,
look at that transition.
Who is
that? So we're taping this on Tuesday after Monday Night Football, where we had the Chiefsiest of Chief performances. They won another nail-biting game in overtime. This is probably the best game Patrick Mahomes has played since the playoffs last season. But even with that, they won by a touchdown against a Bucs team that does not have a great defense right now. And it's really interesting because we're getting the two perspectives. The ones our eyes tell us about this offense not being as explosive as you think it would be with Mahomes, and then the stats that are coming out, which is this is one of the best third down teams in the last 15 years. They're so efficient when it matters in every high leverage situation. So what I want to ask you guys is, are these nail-biting wins for the Chiefs making you more or less confident in them moving forward?
So I was surprised about the third down numbers because one of the big things about adding DeAndre Hopkins was, and particularly in Monday night's game, was he was big on third down. So I assumed that this was going to be a big help for them because obviously this offense that's been mediocre at best probably struggles on third down. So I was shocked to see that they've been good on third down all year. But where DeAndre Hopkins, I think, really comes in handy, and he showed it last night, was in the red zone. He's scoring touchdowns in big body position and against zone coverage. The Chiefs are going to see a lot of zone coverage. Maybe you'll see a lot more aggressive man coverage coming up now because DeAndre Hopkins isn't like the biggest separator, but he and Travis Kelce have been killers against zone coverage, and having Hopkins in the red zone also really helps a lot.
I fully agree. Here's the thing about Hopkins for me is he's QB friendly. It's not just he just understands how to get open for a guy, and a guy like Mahomes. The trust that they built, and Nick, you and I talked about this on Get Up this morning, the trust that Patrick Mahomes already has in him, it is special. I'm going to say this too. Give Veach, their general manager, a ton of credit. Two guys, Hopkins and Hunt, both guys who have come and closed the game out last night. And Pacheco's going to come back here in the next few weeks or so, or a month, and be back. We're seeing what Hopkins already is contributing to this thing. I will say this, though, Charlie. I don't think this team is nearly – I'm more confident in them.
Yeah.
I don't think they're nearly as smoke and mirrors as people think. They have like a plus 6 minute time of possession, which is insane. That means that they are controlling the football game. And you can do that with two things, being able to run the football efficiently and a great defense. And they got both. And when you talk about how do you know, we talk about this all the time. Teams that know how to win, it's not just the best teams, y'all. The teams that know how to win, and it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be sexy. It doesn't have to be the most flashy. It's just find a way to get the dub, and that's what the Chiefs do. I don't think it's smoke and mirror. I think this is how Andy Reid knows they have to go win games. It's to depend on their defense, hope for some explosive plays. But at the end of the day, Worthy isn't your guy. It's going to be Kelsey and D-Hop and Hunt and Pacheco, and then you're hoping for the Worthy catches to be kind of icing on the cake, in my opinion.
So the trust has been huge. I think you brought up, we've been talking about it a bit, and you saw Patrick Mahomes throw into double and triple coverage sometimes, which is only because DeAndre Hopkins is there that he trusts him that level. I think there's another value DeAndre Hopkins that we haven't talked very much about is like bringing in a respected veteran who still has something left in the tank but's never been in the big game. Like there is an element of adding that ingredient to a locker room that I think is hard to measure and matters. And I want to like scoff at Jeff and all his cliches about knowing how to win, but he also put some like foundation behind it. And knowing how to win is time of possession. It is having the right plays at the right time. And I would normally, in this situation, I would fall back, despite the fact that between the two of us, Jeff is the stats nerd of the two of us. He's the guy that always falls back on analytics. I'm the real football guy that likes to put his hands in the dirt. I will say that in most situations, I would look at all these like single game or one score wins, and I would be like, this team is not for real. But it just happens to be that this team seems really comfortable in those situations. And they seem, I think it's residual from watching that Ravens game last year, where there is a situation where some teams, like the Vikings from a few years ago, just happen to win a lot of one-score games.
Right.
And then it feels like, and maybe this is just because it's the Chiefs, but it feels like they are playing these games that way with the intent of getting to the end where they are close and they know that they've been there before, they know how to execute, they have the plays that they want to run, and they're comfortable in it. And it does kind of feel like, I don't want to say they're coasting, but it also kind of feels like, I think Mahomes had a comment saying that they weren't championship ready. And it's like they don't have to be yet, and that's
right.
It does seem like they're pacing themselves. Like I know you would get this since you are engaged to a marathoner. Charlie, you get the idea of saving that burst for the right time, and it feels like they are. Shout out Carrie, the best athlete.
Shout out Carrie, so fast. The Xavier Worthy of our family. But to your point, you guys brought it. Like the stats back this up. Like yes, the Chiefs are 6-0 in one-score games, so the stats nerds would expect a regression because that seems impossible. But Patrick Mahomes is the best winning percentage in one-score games in NFL history, above Tom Brady. He's winning almost 70% of them, just a tick below 70% of those games. So over a large sample, if you put them in a close game, Mahomes is going to win it. And we saw that in the high leverage plays against the Bucs. He was 11 for 13 on third down, 126 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 10 first downs. When you pair that with the way that what you brought up with their defense, that's going to be time of possession because you can't run the ball against the Chiefs. The stats are that you're going to have to try and get your yards through the air against that team. You're going to have shorter possessions, and Mahomes and that offense are just going to kill the clock and drag it out on you. We saw it even in the Ravens game in week 1. That's how they closed out that game.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to say this, too, because I liked what Nick was saying about the Hopkins move. I don't mean to be – I'm not trying to slight the Chiefs here in any way, but going back-to-back is really difficult. I can't imagine trying to three-peat. I don't think people realize the monotony of our game, right? Like, I mean, for fans, they feel they live and die, right? Like they live and die with this thing, man. They grip these games and they hold on, and they hold like revenge, and it's, God, do you remember? And as players, you really just don't do that. Take the decal off, man. I mean, there's some occasion, real true rivalries, but at the end of the day, man, a Sunday at 1 is a Sunday at 1. And there's a business aspect of our game where you show up and let's go get this, check this box. We got to go get this win. But the Hopkins addition and him never getting there breathes hunger. And Nick, I think you said this on Get Up this morning. I think you said something about he's hungry and he's freaking gifted and a baller. Those two things together, walking in that locker room, and Teddy Bruschi had said something to Greeny about this on the Sunday show about like the junior Seau's, right? Of the Randy Mosses, of guys who are coming in your room and coming in your building, and you want something for them as well to show them, kind of give them a taste of what success is. And I think there's a lot to that. I really do.
Yeah. I feel like we've been giving the Chiefs a lot of love in defending all these one-score games, which deserve some defense. But good teams blow some people out every now and then.
Sure.
And they, like, I get into Jeff's point about the monotony. That's something that is hard to explain to people because it's only 17 games now, and you're like, these all really matter so much. But I think it becomes a little bit more understandable, especially when you have a team that is built to win championships and has come off of 2 championships. Like, I get it. These games matter, but you can't fake stakes. Like, you cannot fake. And I think maybe a way that other people can relate to it is, like, if it's something that, if you're looking forward to something way off in the future that you know is going to be there, the little things every step of the way you recognize, like, or as you get a little bit older, you're like, oh, I used to be so excited for Halloween. I used to be so excited for Christmas. And now you're like, oh, it doesn't quite feel the same. What if it's Halloween every day? And that's what it's like for the Chiefs, where every day is Halloween. And they're like, oh, yeah, let me go pick up this candy. I don't need 2 bags. I just need one. I just need enough candy to get a win. They're just they're like biding time, whether they're doing it intentionally or not. You can't fake that. It's, like that commitment, and that's why people talk about bulletin board material and stuff like that. Is coaches are always looking for a way, especially with good teams, to wake you up, to refocus you, to give you a reason to do the extra work, to give you a reason to focus a little harder.
Jeff, I got to ask about that. You were on like that, I can't remember what it was, like 11-0, 12-0, 13-0 Colts team. How hard is it to like stay motivated for these regular season games?
You bring it up a sore subject.
Charlie.
Bring it up a sore subject.
Oh. Well, so we were on a lot of teams that went deep into undefeateds, right? And so, but the year, I think we were 13-0, and we were playing the Jets, and man, we may be at 14-0, but we're somewhere down, and they decide this was 2000. That's the year we lose to the Saints in the Super Bowl. And Bill Polian decided to pull the starters at the half. We were winning the game and pulled the starters at half. When I say the starters, I mean all the skill guys, not the guys who work for a living. We stayed in, but the Peyton Mannings of the world were all watching the second half, and we lose that game. And I remember how frustrating that was for me because it mattered. We weren't going back to back. We had won in 07, 06, 07. So we had won one. We felt pretty good. We were going to get to another one. We felt good about our team, and but I wanted a chance to go undefeated. The kind of the if for this for the Chiefs is a three-peat is better than an undefeated season. So if I'm the Chiefs and I'm Andy Reid, I can easily sell we're going after this three-peat well before I can go after the undefeated. These dudes have already won 2 in a row.
I got you. Maybe I don't know you as well as I think I do, but I think if you're in that locker room, if Andy says we're going to go after the three-peat, not the undefeated season, you're saying, why not both? Like, I don't imagine that Andy, like maybe you would step back, but I can't imagine that you'd be pacified by that. Like we could be the greatest team of all time in a couple different ways.
Nah, that's probably true. You're probably right. But if I'm Patrick Mahomes, my ankle's sore, I might be like, Hey, man.
That's all right. Give Wentz a go. Carson Wentz.
Give Carson a go.
The Mahomes of it's interesting too because he's taken a different tack to it than the like Peytons and Brady's. Like he's really been the one who's oscillated on the gas pedal more than the other great quarterbacks. I don't know. I don't have like a spicy take on this, but it's definitely weird to see a guy before he's 30 and Patrick Mahomes who's on a team that's 8-0, go this long without feeling dominant.
I mean, 2 seasons now where it's been like a lesser version of Patrick Mahomes, and I think it has something to do with where we set the expectations for him so quickly. Like, he was MVP his first year as a starter and was an offsides away from getting to the Super Bowl. He's won 3 Super Bowls already and is about to potentially have a chance at a 4th and a 3-peat. And we already told him after his second Super Bowl, we said, you're chasing Brady, man. Mm-hmm, we put him in LeBron territory right then. So, I think that probably, if that is what he's thinking of, that he recognizes that none of this matters to us. He's already done the regular season stuff. What matters going forward is how many of those belts he can rack up, and then that'll I honestly think that's the only thing that he cares about.
Yeah. It'd be hard not to. I mean, I've said this even with think about this. Even with the Hall of Fame, right? Like, Patrick Mahomes is a shoe-in Hall of Famer. Like, we all know that kind of stuff. But I've said this all the time. It's hard for me when I look at guys go into the Hall of Fame that have been on bad teams, right? Because, and I get it. I know the Hall of Fame's an individual award, but, man, you played Sunday at 1, right? Like, there's not a lot. There's just something different. And, Nick, you and I both know when you play in big games, right? When you play in playoff games, you play in your primetime games, 5 or 6 of them a year, it's just different. The level of competition gets amplified, and Patrick Mahomes is in that rare air where, to your point, man, most of us have never even thought about being, where it's all about rings. It doesn't, I'm going to be the greatest of all time. I got to get 7, and that's my mission. All the rest, all the regular season records, y'all can have them. When it comes playoff time, it's kind of like the Bills Chiefs, right? Yeah. The Bills are 3-2 the last 5 times. All 3 victories are the regular season. The 0-2 is the playoffs. When Patrick, it matters, right? It's like, okay, man, you got it. Good job. Smack you on the butt. I'm going to go take it when we really continue to go play. I think that dude's just built different that way.
I feel like the Ravens got a couple regular season wins over them too, and then it's the playoffs. It's slightly different.
That's right.
It's interesting that this wasn't a path that I anticipated, but us talking about this brought to my mind how unique Patrick Mahomes' career has been, and how there's no one else that we know of that's been on this path, which is for Peyton Manning, even though he won a Super Bowl, the second one is a different conversation altogether, but the regular season mattered so much because it was he was competing, and it was he was amongst other people. And that's so normal for everyone else as a quarterback to be, even if you are amongst the greats. Like Peyton was quickly amongst the greats, and we were measuring his career against other greats. There's nobody else that I can think of who shot up to GOAT conversation status more quickly than Patrick Mahomes. Like that first MVP season, then he won a Super Bowl, and then immediately, and he was so good, immediately we're like, all right, you got 1 Super Bowl? Hey, everybody below Tom Brady, who cares?
Right.
That's never, I can't imagine anyone else I guess basketball is different. Maybe other sports is different because the hype for somebody like LeBron was so big coming in. But he still had to get some regular season accolades. Like, Patrick Mahomes does not need another MVP to validate his career. He doesn't need anything, honestly.
And think about it. I think his 2 losses, right, were Brady in New England and Brady in the Super Bowl. So that ain't bad loss. When you think about a bad loss, it ain't like you just laid it out there and played bad. They couldn't protect him in one of them. He still gave a valiant effort, but at the end of it, you lost to who we are saying is the GOAT. Right. It is a unique, to your point, it is the most unique trajectory of a career that I've ever seen in any sport, honestly.
Yeah.
So, Domonique, you don't think that if Lamar gets the 3rd MVP this year, that Mahomes isn't going to think about that a tiny bit?
maybe he thinks about. Well, I guess it depends on how the season ends.
Yeah,
right? Because
I didn't think we were going
gets,
down this path either. But then you brought
right.
it up, and I was like, Lamar's about to get 3, and they're like a year apart age wise.
This is the point. I think if Lamar gets the 3rd MVP and wins the Super Bowl, there opens a different conversation. Mm-hmm. You know, but if Lamar gets the 3rd MVP, which is announced the week of the Super Bowl, and then Patrick Mahomes goes out and three-peats, we ain't talking about Lamar. No. He ain't thinking about Lamar. There's just, we start the comparisons, or we reinvigorate the comparisons to Tom Brady, and then we start doing cross-sport comparisons. That's what
Wayne
territory
Gretzky, that's what Patrick Mahomes.
That's what territory we're in. We're in Jordan versus Mahomes territory. Right. Lamar Jackson is nowhere even in the conversation, no matter how many regular season MVPs he has. So I think that maybe, I don't even know if it's true, if Lamar wins the MVP and wins the Super Bowl, maybe Patrick. Then we go into next season saying, hold up, Lamar's been better than Patrick in a regular season 2 years in a row, and then he beat him in the playoffs and won a Super Bowl. Hold up, is Lamar Jackson right now the best quarterback in football? Then we get a different type of Patrick Mahomes, a y'all must have forgot version of Patrick Mahomes, right?
That's really interesting. It's so funny because there's the psychology of this, and we can move on. But like the psychology of it's interesting.
We don't have to if it's interesting.
I just think the psychology is like when you see normally it's a younger quarterback who comes up and catches up to them, but like they've been in the league together this entire time. So the concept of him winning MVPs over him or taking a spot in the playoffs is like it's hard for my brain to compute. It's why it's been so hard to imagine anyone being as good as Patrick Mahomes because they're all in that same generation together.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too, man, and I know because Lamar, this is a much bigger conversation than we're even making it, because I think when you think about Burrow and Josh Allen, like we have the makings of a really dynamic time period in the NFL. Right, let's say Josh Allen gets it this year, right? They play in Week 11, and all of a sudden Josh Allen goes, and everybody goes, wait a minute. Or Burrow, and they make this roaring comeback from this awful start and does it again and takes them and goes and beats the Chiefs, in the playoffs. There are just so many, there's so many unique storylines for that QB position. And then now add Jaden Daniels to this. I mean, man, like when you start talking about your top 5 QBs in the league being dudes, and I don't use that term lightly. You're getting into the era of the Manning, Brady, Breeze, Rivers, right? Like you're getting into some rare air, and all these guys are under or right at 30. Holy mackerel! Like that's some real talk. That's some fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list of quarterbacks right now, and like C.J. Stroud. Hasn't been having a great year, but I think he has the potential to be there. Also, Jordan Love, I think, falls in the C.J. Stroud conversation.
Right.
But there's a version of the future that has like 5 or 6 guys, because it's normally like 2, maybe 3 guys.
That's right.
And then some other guys go in and out. And like if Drake May continues to develop, we got a possibility of having Justin Herbert. They solidify around him. Like it could be a real crazy time in football where we have all of these like really great guys, but right now it's still just Patrick's world.
It's just Mahomes. Which is nuts. God,
it is nuts. Even though he's not better than Lamar Jackson right now.
Certainly right now.
Setting up a segue for you.
Yeah, that's the second thing I want to talk about, which is, there's been a lot of talk on the football interwebs and on our network about running backs and running back signings, and we had that running back summit last offseason of how we're going to get these guys signed. Well, 2 of the biggest stories of the NFL season have been running backs. It's been Derrick Henry, who is on pace for another 2,000-yard season for the Ravens, and Saquon Barkley, who has, quite frankly, saved the Eagles a lot of games early in the season before they got their offense rolling. And in their last 3 games, they're 4-0, but in the last 3, Saquon has like 450 yards and is averaging close to 7 yards a carry. And it makes me ask a question I find really interesting, which is, running backs are viewed as this luxury piece. Like, you build your team, you get a running back, and they can make you better, but they can't really raise your floor in this modern NFL. I watch this, and these guys are offensive engines. So how responsible are Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley for how efficient and improved and different the Eagles and the Ravens offenses have been?
It's massive. I mean, think about this, right? The Eagles go into the bye week, and Neek is advocating for Sirianni to get fired. And I'm having to talk him off of a cliff. And I'm just kidding. And then let's just talk about since the bye week. The Eagles in their last 4 games average 42 runs a game for just under 200 yards a game. Now, let's go to Derrick Henry and think about like how good he has been. And Lamar just had another perfect game, right, last week against the Broncos. And you don't have perfect games when you got to go throw it 40 times and you can't run the football. You have it because everybody's got to play the run, and it's opening up Zay Flowers, who doesn't have a defender within 10 yards of him, and he catches it and runs it for 50 yards. Then here's how I show you how important this is. Now you go to a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who they can't run, or go to Joe Flacco, right? The last 2, and you're watching these games. And when you can't run the football, all of the sudden, all the warts that are on your QB, it gets shown. And so it's not a luxury. It's a must-have to be successful in today's NFL. And it's finally showing that difference makers – now, they're 2 different type of backs. I'm not trying to say they're the same, because Derrick Henry is a bring-your-own blocker. He don't need a blocker, right? Like, Saquon is a freak, and he does some amazing things. But Derrick Henry, their 2 styles are completely different. But I just love the impact both have had, because they've changed the trajectory of these teams. Not that they weren't good either way. Like, Philly has been decent, and they went to the Super Bowl without Saquon Barkley. The Ravens have been really good offensively, and Lamar's won an MVP without. Now add those pieces and look how their teams are playing. I think it's a shift in our game, and one for the betterment of quarterbacks as opposed to them competing with each other.
Yeah, I think obviously there, and we've had this conversation before, where I think sometimes it's a mistake to put guys in a position box, because there are some players, and I think Christian McCaffrey was the first player that when he signed that extension, that was the first time when I was like, no, guys, this isn't just a running back. Yeah. Like, yes, they should sign him. Maybe Carolina shouldn't sign him because they're not on the way to win a championship, but somebody should pay this man money. And we've done breakdowns on here. People can go back, I don't remember which part it was, to demonstrate how valuable a player like that is, the gravity that he creates, the attention that he draws, the mismatches that he can create because of his athleticism. And I think that there are players where you can just say weapon and the conversation changes. Right. Because a weapon like Derrick Henry is as valuable as just about any number 1 receiver in the league. And a weapon like Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey, I feel like fits in the same category. However, I don't want to call them luxury pieces, but I do think that it's very different from other positions in that I don't want them if I'm not competitive.
Right.
Like, I don't want them if I don't have a quarterback. Like, I don't want them if I'm not. So that's the point where you get, and I think it's just terminology. Maybe you could say that they are enhancers, but, you know, where you have to already have, and you calling them the engine is the part I think that, like, feels a little bit not perfect. Because, yes, they are the engine, but they're the engine to a decent offense. But if you put them on an offense that already has an engine, they are a supercharger. And so that, to me, is the conversation that we're having. And you brought up Joe Flacco and that running attack that they have in Indianapolis. And I think this is where Jalen and Lamar show their value, because Joe Flacco has made it real hard for Jonathan to get what he wants. Yeah. So, like, these things work together. Yes. And it's sad that the running backs get the short end of the stick. I think Bijan falls in this category also, where it's like, draft Bijan early. Trade and sign Bijan. Because if you add Bijan to your team and your coach got a half a brain in his head, it's like, all right, we can we can threaten people with this.
That's right. You know, the running back position, and Charlie, to me, they're the edge rusher. I compare those would be similar positions, right? You could have an 8-8 team with a monster edge rusher, right? Like think about the Cleveland Browns, right? And like how good Myles Garrett has been, and he's fantastic. And think about T.J. Watt in Pittsburgh. None of them have won. They haven't won any Super Bowls, right? But those guys are, to Nick's point, I guess the supercharger would make the most sense in the way that you call them. They're not the engine of the defense, but by God, you put them on a team with a good defense and a good. All of a sudden, they make highlights, right? They win you games. They do things because they can close it out. And I think so. To your point, you have to have the foundation of a good quarterback, irrespective of that other player. So they're.
But I don't know. I would.
Yeah.
I think I would push back a little bit, but maybe it's just because we've never seen it. But we've never seen Myles Garrett on a bad defense, and we've never seen T.J. Watt on a bad defense. But it might be because they have been in the situations where it was already there. Because like Max Crosby is an example of a great pass rusher who's been on some bad defenses.
Bad teams.
But they are so good that you can build around them. The question about running backs that I think makes this conversation a little more difficult is the fact that we do exist in a salary cap sport, and there are trade-offs that you have to make. And where the conversation gets a little hairy is when you say, when you look at the Eagles and you're like, hey, yeah, Saquon's been great and he's supercharged your offense and frankly is carrying your offense. But would you be better off if you had a dominant defensive lineman? The same thing for the.
That's why they picked Jalen Carter over Bijan, because that was the discussion going into that exact draft.
And I agreed with that decision for that team because I thought Jalen Carter was going to be Chris Jones level good. He hasn't been that. If Jalen Carter was that good, then obviously it's the right choice. And I think for the Ravens, it's like your offense has been, I don't know, top 5 by EPA every year, just about. And you go get Derrick Henry, and now your offense is the best in the league. But would you have been better served to use that money to get someone else? Like, they need a pass rusher. They're injured in the secondary. It's like, how much – I guess that's the question. And that's where it gets kind of complicated, and I could understand some legitimate pushback. But at that price, you're not getting no difference maker for $8 million.
$8 million a year.
That's what
there's no conversation. This is all about arbitrage. This is all about the fact that the nerds got in the game and told y'all that running backs ain't worth so now nobody wants to be criticized by the nerds, so nobody want to pay running back. And then when a running back pops up who is a difference maker, y'all like, oh, I'm not going to get him.
Right.
And they push the price down because I'm sure the Ravens wouldn't have paid that if they had to pay what Derrick Henry's value actually is.
And the thing is, Dominique, to your point, this Ravens team, they're top 5 in DVOA every year with Lamar Jackson because he's the one-man conflict for a defense. Yeah. Of course. That's a given. And this is why it's a chicken and egg situation with them, because they're now by watching it and by the stats, one of the best offenses of all time with this guy. And Lamar has obviously improved. We've talked about it on this show at length. He is throwing the ball more accurately. He lost weight this offseason. And as Jeff
said, that's connected to Derrick Henry being there and him second year in the offense, all that stuff.
Totally, 100%. And Dominique, one of the tenets of our show, offenses need to hunt explosive plays.
Yeah, amen.
And what's really interesting about these two guys that we're talking about as we expand out into this running back universe is most explosive rushing guards this season, this is from Ryan Heath. It's coming off of runs that are 15 yards or longer. Derrick Henry has 523 explosive rushing yards. Saquon Barkley has 403. Those are the two top in the NFL. Last year, through 16 games, Christian McCaffrey had 531, which led the league. So these guys are shattering what we thought a top running back could do and how much they can stretch a defense with just handing them the football.
Yeah. So it's interesting, Charlie. You brought when I did that little coaching stint in Indy, and Jonathan Taylor actually had just come on. He was banged up, and then he got banged up again in Minnesota early in the game, and so he was gone basically the rest of the season. But the number one factor when you think about turnovers, like all the major contributing factors to games, right? Turnovers, penalties, special teams, kind of go through the list of how we've all been taught. Explosive plays are the number one factor of winning and losing in the NFL. However you want to frame it, however you want to talk it through, unless you are just stupid turnover-wise, like just – an anomaly, right? You just can't help but turn it over so often. If you keep your turnovers even in a relationship that's normal, explosive plays are what's going to win you football games. And because I'm telling you, as we did the predicted, as guys would come in and the nerds like Neek would come in and sit in my office every Thursday or Friday, and we would talk about point production, you would talk about, the NFL isn't built on 12-play drives anymore. And I think it's built on 4 plays and then a shot and then maybe a touchdown, or, a 2-play 50 yards and then let's hit 4 in the red zone. So it's just a different dynamic that the way the NFL is won, and that is a fact. Explosive plays matter, and running backs giving you those are just as consequential as those guys on the outside as well.
This goes back to the stat that we tried to create with Mina on this show a few weeks ago. Jeff, we haven't figured out how to get this off the ground, but I think it matters, and I think you'll appreciate it because as an offensive player and a former head coach, how difficult it is to score in this league.
Yes.
And it's very hard. And defense is even up, it feels like, this year. So it's even harder this year than ever before. And to your point, you have to scheme up explosive plays to win. And the stat that Charlie and I tried to get off the ground was unexpected explosives. And it feels like Derrick Henry leads the league in that. And so, there are a lot of explosives for the Lions that I can just picture in my mind. They just come to mind as they've, designed these creative plays.
Right.
And, they work sometimes and they get explosives. If you have, 10 drives in a game, just for a round number. You have 10 drives in the game. Let's say that your coach, the average coach is good enough average coach is good enough to score on 3. Let's say you have a great coach to score in some way on 3. You have a great coach. He's going to design plays to get you to 4. Then imagine if there's a guy that you're not just planning around, you just hand him the ball on 1st and 10 or 2nd and 6, and you're like, hey, maybe he can get us 6. I'd be elated if he give us 12. What if he give you 60? Right. Then you have a scoring drive that you barely had to work for. Yes. You can walk into a game and it's not guaranteed, but there's a chance that you get a surprise. It's tantamount in my mind to a turnover or a special team score.
Yes.
It's like these big plays that you haven't planned for that are one-man drives, and it's like these unexpected explosives where you get 30 yards, you get 40 yards, you shift field position, and we don't have to scheme for it. I could take a break as a quarterback or as a play caller, and we're just like, you know what? Give it to Derek. Yeah. Worst case scenario, we'll get 3. Best case scenario, we'll get 50.
Yeah, it was the draw play that Barkley takes on the edge the other day. He sprint draw, the guy takes it outside and freaking houses it, and you're like, really? How good is that, right? It's funny you said that because when we would game plan, you only have so many practice plays, obviously. So let's say that you have what you call shot plays, and that's what it is on offense. Designed, what Nika's talking about, designed play action, build up, 7-man pros. We're going to take a shot down the field, whatever that is, right? Let's say you have 10 in your script. You're probably only calling 4 in a game because it's feast or famine. If you fail on all 4, you're probably punting on that drive, and so you don't get enough times to do. So to your point, I think it's a great stat. I think it would be. Because that's the truth. The truth is those unexpected ones, or the screen that pops all of a sudden, and it's not a blitz, and it's just good blocking and a running back or a receiver making something happen. It's vital, and it is so true because creating shot plays is completely different than being the beneficiary of somebody doing it for you.
You made a point that I just want to particularly highlight and underline is that it's high reward with low risk.
That's
So
right.
in a series of plays, let's say you have 3 plays to keep your drive alive or your drive could die. One of those plays you have designed a shot play. If it's incomplete, you now have 2 plays and you've gained no yards.
Yep.
Your drive is essentially the probability of you converting and keeping the drive going is all the way over.
Yep.
So now let's say you hand the ball to Derrick Henry. The low end of that is a 2-yard gain. Like, that's the low end. It's
That's
not
right.
completely nothing. So that means that you go from, let's say it's on first down. You could end up in 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 8. Let's say it's 2nd and 6. You could end up in 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 6. That's not a terrible situation.
No.
If you are throwing shots on these downs, then if it's 1st and 10, you throw a shot, it's 2nd and 10. And the defense has already decided on defense, they're running the ball next.
That's right.
Then you run the ball and you get 2 yards, you're in 3rd and 8. But, it's a whole different scenario because you hand it to Derrick Henry, and I said worst case scenario is he gets 1 or 2 yards.
Yeah.
Likely scenario is he going to get you 5.
Exactly.
And then he might get you 10. So you are both eliminating the low-end risk and still have high-end explosive potential. And the best part about Derrick Henry is the more they try to stop the run, the more likely it is that he's going to get explosives.
Yes.
Because you put more people in the line. And it's like, you think you're going to stop Derrick?
Yeah.
Fine. You got him for 2. Yeah, we'll keep handing it to him. You got him for 2 again. You got him for 2 again. Sooner or later, he going to get 20, 30 on that, and we're going to be immediately in the red zone. It's a tough situation to be in. And he might hurt your safety.
And run 25 miles an hour while he's doing it. Good Lord.
To this point, Dominique and Jeff, I wanted to call these plays Henry's the first time we recorded it, and a listener of the show tweeted us calling them highly explosive, non-rehearsable yardage. So thank you to Still Not Kevin D1 on Twitter for making the acronym work.
Yeah, all right. We got it. All right. I didn't like the name Henry's, but I feel like we got to make it run. Yeah, now I like it. Now we got an acronym for it. We can make it pop.
I was just going to lean in until we got the proper acronym for it. All right, guys. So the last one, we got Top Jeff here, so we have to ask about the Colts. The latest coming out of Indy is that Joe Flacco has been named.
I like that. It's like, I don't know. It feels like Top Chef, but it's Top Chef.
That's what I was going for.
I didn't realize that you were doing that.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thanks.
You're smart.
I appreciate it.
You got some good ideas behind that shiny noggin.
That's right. That way too shiny noggin. But so Joe Flacco has been named the starter for the rest of the year. I think a lot of the sports media thought that Richardson was being benched for tapping out, or was going to be a bench for the next 4 weeks because of how difficult the Colts schedule was, and they wanted him to sort of recalibrate his mind and where he's at. And since then, we've gotten the notebook emptying news dump that people thought he wasn't preparing the right way for certain things, that his offseason didn't connect with receivers the right way. Schefter used the term seismic shift and tweeted out these stats about first-round quarterbacks being benched and not making Pro Bowls with the original team that drafted them. What do you make of what's going on in Indy in this decision and how sort of quick it's been?
Yeah, just not a fan, right? So when you draft a guy 4th in the draft that has played 12 or 13 games in college, development should couple in that conversation. Let's just be real, right? I mean, I think it was Bill Parcells who put it out. He wanted like a starter to have, I don't remember, it was like 30 or 40 starts or something before he would really want to consider them. And I don't know it has to be that many, but I agree that the more guys play in college, the better equipped they usually are to come in and take over an NFL offense. So that being said, I would have liked, if the Colts were going to draft him 4, I would have liked to see you either say, okay, we're not going to start him year 1 and 2. We're going to let Minshew be the guy in year 1. We're going to let Flacco be the guy in 2. We're going to kind of take our lumps, do whatever. We're going to build around him because those guys aren't going to cost any money. He's on a rookie contract. And then by year 3, we're going to lay all in to Anthony Richardson, and now we're going to go, right? We're going to go with him. We're going to go with his athleticism, and now he's figured out how to prepare, how to get this thing going, how to lead a team, all of the intangibles that you are now saying that are, quote, being leaked out, which basically means somebody's agenda is being filled from the front office, just saying that, right? So let's make sure that when we say things are being dumped, it's being dumped for a reason, all right? So all the fans who listen to all of it, it's being said by somebody who's protecting a job somewhere. All right, so let's just put that out there. But so now you've benched a kid after 10 games in the NFL. If you didn't like his preparation leading up to the season, then why did you play him again this season? Like, none of that stuff makes sense to me if that's the real deal. It makes it very easy to say it now that you've benched him, okay? And so my point for Anthony Richardson is either he shouldn't have done what you did to him now, and now the Colts are back in the same situation they've been in nearly for a decade now since Andrew Luck left, with the Phillip Rivers, the Matt Ryans, right? Like we're going to bring in an aging quarterback who's not going to be here. Yeah, Foles. We're not going to be here very long. We're going to stay over for a little bit. We're going to win. We're going to be 500-ish. You know, we're not going to make the playoffs, or we're going to make the playoffs and lose in round one. We're not going to win the division. I don't know how long it's been since they won the division, but we're not going to push for the division. None of that stuff. Like that's just not the Colts that I know and that I played for. And so it's a different way about however it's being done. And look, I didn't like the tap out. I'll be honest, it pissed me off. As an offensive lineman, man, my QB ain't coming out because he's freaking tired. But I'd have had that conversation with him by myself in the locker room. It didn't have to just be a media blow-up. And I would have looked at the media and been like, hey, freaking pipe down, dude. This is my job, right? You report on us. I got this in-house. I'm going to handle this. We'll get him right. You let us worry about our own guy. But it wasn't like that, right? It was, and maybe you bench him for a week. I'm okay with even that. We're going to bring Flacco in. We're going to show him, hey, you can't act this way, or we're going to do it differently. But to make it a hey, he's done for the year, and now all of a sudden it's not an experiment. We're going the Joe Flacco route. So best case scenario for the Colts, you find your way into the playoffs, and you draft 20th, whatever that is, 18th. Are you getting better? Like, is Anthony Richardson better? Is Flacco going to be your guy next year? Like, what's the long-term vision and plan of how this organization moves forward? You're seeing Jaden Daniels. You're seeing Caleb Williams. You're seeing Bo Nix, for guys. Like, you're seeing a lot of guys have some success, and I'm just wondering, okay, all those guys are having success. We got an outlier here. What's our issue? What do we do? How do we develop them? If we're a team that believes in development, we got to develop them, and right now that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
I've been trying to get a segment off the ground on this show called Make It Make Sense, when coaches or somebody does something dumb that we all are on the same side of. Like, I try to extend them some respect and say that they aren't imbeciles, and like challenge myself to make it make sense. And it can't with the information that we have. The information that is available, it doesn't make sense because this is the behavior of a new regime.
That's exactly right.
This is how you behave if you were like, all right, well, we just got in. They have these guys. We're going to see how it works with the guys that they have, and we're going to start evaluating them. This guy is not the quarterback that I brought in. It's not the quarterback that I want. It's a project. I'm not interested in a project. Let's move on to a different style of quarterback altogether, which that doesn't make sense. Why not get someone to back him up who plays more similar to the way that he plays? Because then if he gets hurt or you bench him, then your run game doesn't go completely down the toilet because no one respects his running ability. So that's another conversation. And if you were going to go for a quarterback who is like a game manager because you think you're talented enough to make a run with someone who doesn't make mistakes, then get an actual game manager. Because just because Joe Flacco is old doesn't make him a game manager. Joe Flacco is a guy that likes to take shots and sometimes turns the ball over. So why that's the only thing that's consistent between the two of them is they both got big arms and like to use them. So none of this makes sense. And so if it were a different regime, it would make more sense. But it feels like to me, and Jeff, I won't have you speak on this because I don't want you. You have more relationships there, so I don't want to make it seem like it's something that you're saying. But for me, it feels like someone, and the GM most likely, is trying to distance himself from this draft pick, and feels like this draft pick is. He wants to make it seem like it's not his and he's not attached to it, because normally when someone's been somewhere as long as he has and then they draft a quarterback, you ride or die with this quarterback. And it feels like he's trying through the leaks and through these decisions that he's trying to say, nah, we got a lemon. This guy was a dud. Don't blame this on me. Like, there was nothing anyone could do with this, which seems to me very silly when you got a guy that is quite possibly – the biggest project that we've seen in draft in recent history. Like, I don't know who else we can point to who was drafted that high based solely on athleticism and potential.
Right.
Like, solely on athleticism and potential in one real good game, some highlight plays. Yeah. And so when you get a guy like that, why start him week 1 of last season? That doesn't make sense. Like, there should be a long-term plan for how we're going to prepare this guy. And then if you started him week 1, why pull him in the second year in embarrassing fashion after, like, whether it's about to tap out or not, it's going to be the timestamp that we use to talk about this forever. So that is attached to him. It just seems like short-sighted decision-making.
No, and let me say this, too.
Or cover your decision-making.
Right,
too.
yeah, see why. Let me say it this way, too. What probably it was the most frustrating is when they did draft him, all the things they said was, we're going to develop him. We have a plan in place to develop patience. This isn't he doesn't have to be Superman, all these different things, right? And what happens in the NFL, they see C.J. Stroud ball out. They're seeing Jaden Daniels ball out, and all of a sudden, you got to be Superman. Well, wait a minute. Like you just moved the field goal. You just missed the post on me here. Like we had this plan in place where we were going to move it in this way, but all of a sudden, other people around me are doing something I'm not capable of doing quite yet. I'm with you. I'm not And you just hate it for guys because I would have liked to see them truly develop. And if it is about immaturity or about the guy's not a good, then say it. But the problem for me is not one player has said it. There's enough vets in there with enough freaking cojones, bro. If they thought it, they could say it. Like, they could go, hey, man, the dude just didn't do it, right? He didn't handle himself. It's over. We're moving on. We're going to bigger and better things. Okay, the guys have been there for 10 years, a decade, whatever. They got all pros, Pro Bowl, whatever. Say it, bro. But nobody has said that. They're all like, when he gets his chance again, it just doesn't pass. It just doesn't pass the smell test. It's just a strange thing.
And the guys are going the opposite way. Like Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly says he's pissed about the quarterback carousel. And Quentin Nelson's like, of course I still have faith in this guy. I'm surprised by it. I mean, this guy's 8 months younger than Caleb Williams. Right. He's the youngest starter in the NFL still. That's
unbelievable.
He's 3.5 years younger than Bo Nix.
Y'all
Y'all
gonna put
47 fewer games of college football.
Y'all put more gray hair on me. My wife. I got two. I'm almost fan. I'm almost fan for the Colts. It's like I don't have enough. I gotta tone it down. Keep the blood pressure down, man. Because I want them to be good, bro. And I want Anthony Richardson to be a freaking beast. You know what I mean? You want a 10-year run like all these young QBs, man. And the kid has got. Dang, bro, he's a freaking brick house. He's got a good arm. And you think about he and Jonathan Taylor, like what their run game could really look like, how electric that thing could be. Long term, you got to learn not to take shots. You got to learn not to turn it. But, God, man, it just is, I'm over the 38 plus, like just Band-Aid, man. I want to win a division. I want to win some freaking playoff games and just frustrated.
Yo. God. Don't worry about the gray hair. You can just keep dyeing them like you're doing now.
I don't dye nothing, baby. This is all fresh. All fresh.
You got to comb through up top. You got to comb through. You just got comb through. Up top. It's too dark.
No, sir.
It's too dark. You got a little comb through.
I'll admit to the melanin up here, this all natural. All of it's earned. All right here.
All right, Jeff, I appreciate you, man. This was fun. We should do this more often.
I love y'all, man. Love being a part.
Yeah. Love you too, bro. Charlie, thanks, bud. Thanks to all the great producers. I love you, Podville. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.